Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. So we didn't let Katya drink her water today. Not the best timing, but I have already entered in the description of all videos that live videos can always run into some. This one's not a problem, but some funny things may happen along the way, and this is the case for today's transmission. Before we proceed, because we are going to have a very interesting, just we think as the previous programs, just before we proceed to the content of today's, I would like to take 1 or 2 minutes to share with you. As we all know, you may be watching this video very close to the time of the transmission, or for our friends listening to the podcasts. I wish to thank people in the podcast a little later. I just don't want to interrupt the main idea. So I'm not sure when you will be listening or watching this video. So probably you will be still have contact with this content in this March. Today is March the 8th, 2022. But maybe you will watch it at a year or 2 years later. So the situation may be different. But I wanted to bring your attention because our slogan is that we may have different points of view, but we always need to be respectful. The current context of the world for the past 2 weeks, uh, around 14, 18 days, you may be aware, I insist if you're watching or listening it very close to March the 8th, it's the war in Ukraine, and I understand that people may have, for his own circumstances, be in favor or one or the two parties that are involved. Of course, I think we all disagree with war and having people killed. But I want to call your attention to what I read at the beginning of the week. And it is the case of Anna Netrebko. I think most people know who Anna Netrebko is. I read that unfortunately all her performances at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York have been cancelled, provided that she refused to openly challenge her president's intent, the position of Russia in the war. So as a result, all her performances have been cancelled. And I read that it is the same. It was published yesterday at the Liceo de Barcelona. It happened the same situation. Her presentations have been cancelled. I have been through the comments, and what I read is very, very, very unfortunate. I would like to call your attention that when we are performing as artists, as singers, we are not political activists of any kind. We like people, we love music, we like to have presentations. So to drag artists into these very unfortunate times of war that we are living is simply not fair. If the people you are referring to is not openly politically active, you should not demand a singer or an artist or an athlete to go open and be in favor or against someone because you are causing so much trouble to someone who is just living for the art. I would also like to insist that it would be greatly appreciated if you could refer to Anna Netrebko as the artist that she has been. You may or may not like her art, so let's keep all our comments on whether we like her performance of Lucia, if we like her Traviata or anything that has to do with the artist, but please do not involve her family, do not involve her nationality into this sort of trouble, mainly because it is very unfair. And so please let's be all respectful with the artists that you have in your own countries. And as I said, it is our slogan that we need to be very respectful of each one's position. I understand that everybody has a position on this very unfortunate situation, but please, unless an artist goes openly activist, please do not put them in that situation where they are confronted to something that they even shouldn't be managing, because it is not something that they provoked, and there is nothing they can do about it. So please just leave them there. I read the same unfortunate situation for a university in Italy who has forbidden the studies of Mr. Fyodor Dostoevsky, which is very unfortunate because he's one of the most important literates in the history of Russia. Please do not take it off on any person who is not directly involved in this war. And with that being said, I would like to wrap up my comment. Please respect everyone's thoughts, and eventually this will be resolved by the parties who need to resolve it, which will not be the artists. Okay, so thank you for paying attention to those two introductory minutes. Now let's move ahead. I was telling you that I wanted to thank people in the podcast. I read the statistics, and looks like people in Europe, mainly in Norway and Sweden, have start to become loyal to the only audio version of this. I really want to thank you for that. Moreover, that you have already heard the material of program 2, which had this problematic audio. So thank you very much for having continued to listen. And also, I wanted to remind you that as we are transmitting live, things may happen, things may derail. So we appreciate that you understand. We do it with the most pleasure. Okay, enough introductory. Today's topic is something that we are all going to enjoy a lot, because today's topic is when the opera, or when singing is art, or may fall into the category of acrobatics, or may even be a circus. I am about to explain that difference now. And many people may not know, when you read the score sheet, the music sheet, as it is written, singers take some liberties, sometimes too many liberties, but the difference between what is written, the some liberties, and too many liberties is, from my perspective, what makes the difference between art, acrobatics, when people like to see a high note, a long note, and a circus, when the thing that is being actually sung does really not resemble to what was written. But there is still this adrenaline in the singer and in the audience. We are going to be today providing several examples around it. And as you know, we like to open with music, and we like it more when Katia is who is opening the music today. I understand that she's about to share with us something that she shared a couple of programs ago, but today we will be listening to variations. So maybe why don't we start listening to Katia's rendition of what is actually written on the score, and we make a pause, and then we call the attention of the listeners to what the variations are. So if Katia has no objection, let's go for what is actually written, and that maybe not anybody or hardly someone knows.
Okay, it's a kind of challenge to try to find the differences.
Yeah.
Tornami a vagheggiar e solo volamar quest'anima fedele, caro mio bene, caro, tornami a vagheggiar. Tornami a vagheggiar. E solo volamar, e solo volamar, quest'anima fedele, caro mio bene, e solo volamar, quest'anima fedele, caro mio bene. Caro mio bene.
And so,
And that's what we can find in our sheet score.
but as we have mentioned also in previous programs, sometimes that is not enough for the singer.
No,
So
never know.
so they say maybe we add something here, we take this note for longer, and that's what is we are about to listen with Katya's voice.
The differences.
Yeah.
But before I start to make this second part with variations, I would like to add that sometimes, in the case of Baroque period arias, it's usually to find that we have a structure, a music form named sonata, where you find A, B, A. It means in music, for those who are not musicians or not very approached to some music uh, words, it means, or it refers to A as a part of our area where you expose an anatomical state, an idea. Then there is a B part that it's usually the opposite, or it shows or exposes another idea, another feeling, and then you return to A, where the composer tries to make you remind A, but with some differences, or the freedom to express as a singer some variations. So in this case, A is as I sang in this moment. Then we have B. I won't sing B.
I understand, yeah.
And then we have A with variations, and it's kind of this. Tornami a vagheggiar, e sarò volamar, questa anima fedele, caro mio bene. Tornami a vagheggiar. Tornami a vagheggiar. E solo voglio amar, e solo voglio amar quest'anima fedele, caro mio bene. E solo voglio amar, amar quest'anima fedele, caro mio bene. Caro mio bene.
That was so very interesting. I have never heard those variations. And I think that this is exactly the right time so that this is going to be today's dynamics. I am going to be sharing with you on the screen, and everybody has to vote on whether that one that we shared is art, that is pure acrobatics, or that is closer to a circus. Maybe the criteria is when, as I was telling you before, too much. This was too much, so it resembles more to circus, or it just looks like acrobatics that people tend to like for excitement, and art, which is usually what people don't like because it does not have the pyrotechnics that acrobatics do. So, of course, part A, I like it, and I like it a lot. Part A for me is art. The A with the variations, I am not sure. I am somewhere stuck between acrobatics and a circus. Don't you feel that it may be a little too much? What do you think?
I think that you have to find a middle point between I can't. make my ideas part of the music piece, but always trying to respect the composer
Style.
original idea. Like you just said some minutes ago, you can't do something that is totally different of what was originally written or created. As an artist, because singers, we are artists, as an artist, you can be creative and you can and have to make your own version of each piece of music. Um, I think that is part of create of being a musician or an artist, to put your seal on it, your personal seal on the music you do or you perform. But it can change a lot.
But you didn't answer my question. So, A, with the variations that you presented, you feel like it is acrobatics, it looks good, or do you think that maybe those variations were too much?
I feel it is an acrobatic question.
Acrobatics.
An
Okay.
acrobatic.
Remember, if you're
Yes.
watching or listening it on the main platforms for podcast streaming, it is also for you to vote. And we are not asking that you say, Katya said it is this, it has to be this. Ricardo said it is that, it has to be that. No, we are respectful of everyone's points of view. We're just sharing what our own thoughts are. Okay, so let's go for another example. And I would like to mention the very, very, very well known in the field of opera. I would like to mention very quickly that hyper famous. Uh, it was an E flat, that hyper famous E flat in in the performance of Aida by Maria Callas, Mexico, 1951, at the end of the concertante. People who don't even know where Mexico is, but they know about that E flat at the end of the concertante. It is very impressive when you attend that size of a concert hall. It is very impressive when you are 120 meters from the stage and you think of a singer who in front of that with the choir fortissimo, all the singers in fortissimo, the orchestra in fortissimo, and manages to give that note and you can still hear it. So I really understand the excitement, and when you listen to the applause, and everybody goes mad, wow! And that it has been repeated by few other singers throughout the past 50 years, but people still is like electrified when they listen to the original version. So, time to vote. Is that E flat art, acrobatics, or a circus? Of course, the note is not even written. I think there is a B. Well, for people who don't listen to music, that is well below the E that Maria Callas sang. Maybe to help you have an opinion, I will tell you what Maria Callas said herself in one interview from those performances. She said that was not art. She said, I did what I was requested to do, knowing that that was not art. So she herself eliminated art out of our voting. Uh, I am stuck between the acrobatics and the circus because the circumstances that she was having they quarreling, the tenor and the soprano were quarreling about who sang louder. So and there were people with the excitement of paying her for giving that note, so there is too much around it. So I tend to think that it is closer to a circus than to acrobatics. That's what those are my thoughts.
I would like to vote.
Yeah, what is your vote?
My vote is circus because there's no way to justify.
Well, people paid a
And that's
lot.
like I said about Tornami Abagajar. There is A, B, and A again, and you can and you have to do something different, and you can propose and you can experiment. So you can justify. But if it is just about Well, I sing because I can, and in I will make an unwritten note because I can. For me, that's circus.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, I am somewhere between acrobatics and circus, closer to a circus. But I would like to call your attention because if you Google it, you will find 1,000 places where everybody has an opinion on the flat, if it is better than the one she sang in the 50s, why she never tried it later. So, too many lines written about around that note, very few about how artistic that was. But what I wanted to call your attention to is that please listen to the complete recording of that performance in Mexico City. Because when you listen to the complete performance, you really, and for singers, it will be more obvious. I can feel that each singer is trying to surpass the other. So much attention is paid to what Maria did, what the tenor was trying to challenge her. But when you listen to Giuseppe Taddei, I think it's Taddei in that recording singing a Monastro, and Doralia Dominguez, our Mexican contralto, singing Amneris. Amneris is doing things extremely difficult for the other mezzos to come. She really takes on the challenge, and she is also singing something so very out of place. So when you listen to the whole recording, you see that they are trying to kill each other metaphorically on stage. My volume, my power, my notes, I have better read, so it is, but it is just excitement. That is not close to what Maestro Giuseppe Verdi wrote. Let's go for for the next example. And this time is going to be about a coloratura, so Katia is going to have an opinion on that. Many people are aware of Mado Robin, this French singer. Her Lucia, you know that sopranos usually go crazy at some point at the opera, go crazy. Moreover in Donizetti's,
But just on stage.
well, just on stage, of course. Thanks for the for the comment. So Mado Robin sings even higher than the Queen of the Night. She goes for a B flat. That if you listen to the recording, which is also available on YouTube, is also very impressive. But I mean, you hardly ever listen to a note like that. Maybe you don't even know that it. I know that popular singers have some things like that because people say, but Mariah Carey sings with whistle voice and things like that. But I am talking now about educated voices, just as Mado Robans. So, time to vote. Is that stratospheric note, art, acrobatics, or circus? My opinion is very clear. Circus. Katia, what is yours?
Circus.
Yeah, okay, we
I
finally
mean,
agreed.
I would if I could. I have to be honest. I would if I could, but that's the reason because of circus.
Yeah, you have to understand that that note comes out of nowhere, and she does it just because she can. But
Yeah.
it is not even in the style of anything. So sorry for those who love that rendition and write
It
many
shouldn't
blogs on it.
exist, but it does.
Yeah, so we already voted on that. Let's jump and go back now to another gender. Let's go for the zarzuela. And maybe at this point, I should tell you that I am mentioning a couple of examples, but examples of this kind, there are dozens. Uh, it was many years when I tried to find, you may be aware of the duet Caballero del Alto Plumero that Duquesa Carolina and Javier sing in the very first act. Caballero del alto plumero, donde caminas tan pinturero. So you may be aware of that melody, right? And at the end, I recall that I had already heard a couple of recordings, and I remember the two singers going for a high note. And so the very first time I I could put my hands metaphorically again on the score, and I saw that the high note is written just for the male voice. I always thought that the note was for Carolina and that the tenor, because tenors sometimes have their egos, wanted to go along with her on the high note. But it's the opposite. The note is written for the tenor and not for Carolina. She's, in fact, the one going for a note that is not written. So when they both sing de aquel rosal and they go high, both of them go high, is it? Let's vote. Art, acrobatics, or circus? Since it is a soprano, I know that Katya's opinion will be biased. So, but why don't I ask you first? What do you think about both of going for the high note?
Oh my God. Um, I think that I would uh, think about another option like ego or something like this. I mean, it's beyond circles.
Okay, so not in the scale that we are presenting.
No.
But can you picture a soprano who says, "I can, but I won't because it is written. I will just let the tenor show off." I cannot think of
No,
any
that's not
soprano.
gonna happen.
That will never. I think there is a recording. I don't recall who the singers are, but I think I recall the soprano just going for a lower note, which of course she was not very happy of doing. But maybe the director said, "We are going to sing it as written." But it also feels like it loses the excitement. Because, and I wonder if I had Maestro Moreno Torroba, I would ask him, why is the high note only for the tenor when the two of them are actually singing together? I even think it is anticlimactic to let him go Rosal only for him and the soprano Rosal. I mean, that's weird. Um, the soprano going for that note, for me, it's just acrobatics. She wants to show that she has a note.
I think so. I think so. And it makes sense that both of the voices are reaching a high note. It makes sense. So I think it as art, but acrobatics.
Okay, then let's take another example for voting. Let's keep another example from the zarzuela. We are talking about keeping a high note, but also, let me see, this is not a good example because this is going to be very polemic. Let me look for another example. Yeah, let's take Bella Enamorada. Bella Enamorada, which has been very famous in the voice mainly of José Carreras and Plácido Domingo. Bella Enamorada, con tu imagen sueño, tararara, tararara. Of course, not that ugly that I did, just to remind you of the words. But at the end, when you have to wrap up the note or the melody, it is it feels like it there is something missing. So depending on the mood of Carreras, or depending on the mood of Domingo, or depending on the mood of any singer, everybody wraps up the song differently. From something absolutely horrible from my perspective that doesn't even go with the style because the melody is like very calm. Bella enamorada, con tu imagen sueño y un amor dichoso busco para mí. So when you go with this melody, you feel at the end when say que ya no volverá. It goes something like this as written. But depending on the singer, many just go for the que ya no volverá. Like like it is an opera, like you're listening to Verismo, like it is an aria from Verismo, and that does not go with the style of Bella Enamorada. And others do not go for que, but just say que ya no volverá. Something like that. But from my perspective, doesn't even make sense with what is written. So, for the case of Bella Enamorada, that people know that no tenor seems to understand how to rap it, I wouldn't even say acrobatics. I could say it's a circus. It's so horrible the way it is usually ended that my vote has to vote for circus. What do you think, Katya?
Circus. I vote for circus because we have to sing. Yes, we like to. We love to show off what can we do. Um, but we have to respect the styles. We can't sing everything as a competition or just a meal to show off my virtuosistic skills. So we have to respect the composer and we have to respect the music.
Yeah, so your vote is circus?
Circus.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, we agree again. Let's mention a general case going back to the opera, and you may be aware of this one. The duo between Gilda and Rigoletto, Si Vendetta, Tremenda Vendetta. Question: is there a high note? I think that sopranos usually go for a D flat, if I recall well, something around a D flat. Uh, because sopranos, they hey, am I staying just at B? Of course not. I have to go higher. So even though that is not written, they usually go higher. I think it's a D. At this point in time, I really don't remember what the actual note is, but it is around the D. It is not even a C. It is higher than a C. Well, they
Yeah, it
go,
has to be.
yeah, that note there, but that pushes the baritone to sing a higher note as well, because now it is the ego of the baritone. If this lady did it, I am not. Of course, I don't have a high C because I'm a baritone. I don't have those notes, but I am going to show the strength of maybe my G, or some baritones have a nice A. So you go you hear the soprano at the very end, da 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 da, and when the baritone says da 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 da, that the final part, the soprano all out of nowhere goes da. I don't remember the note, so you may see whatever you think it is, right? And when she finishes, then the baritones the baritone goes for his high note, or something, whatever she comes up with, and that's how this ends. And people are really expect that sort of confrontation between the voice of the soprano, the daughter Gilda, and the father Rigoletto. But it is not written like that. And when singers don't sing it, people, the public, is like, they don't have the note. They were afraid. Maybe they are sick, you know? The tone or the mood now goes against them. For the case of Rigoletto's duet, you, of course, singing it with those stratospheric notes for each of the voices, of course, it is not art. I I think that is closer to a circus. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. Acrobatics but circus.
If you were in Gilda singing with a baritone has been trying to make your life miserable for the past two acts, could you go for your high note?
I will always go for the high note. I will.
No matter how your partner on the stage is doing,
Sorry.
you will always go. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so those are the votes for that case. Let's go for
But
another. Sure.
excuse me. I think that in some parts, these high notes can be justified or understood as angelic.
I
So in
think
that case,
I think that
it can be close to art and acrobatics,
I think
and
that
not
the
as much
I
circus.
I think that the main difference has to do with the good taste. Because if you're really into the role and you manage to transmit that desperation, because Gilda is desperate, because she's listening to Rigoletto threatening the life of the one that she loves, even though he raped her, she says she still loves him well. But if she's in that desperation and the soprano manages to convey that in her voice, you really buy it because all those high notes give you the desperation. But if you listen to her like singing the doll, ah, going for the ah, and then suddenly going for the much higher note just because, then it doesn't make sense. I think, from my perspective, they maybe that would justify. And the baritone is also very mad. So when he listens to her yelling of desperation, defending him, I would understand the baritone also going very high, like, "Hey, I need revenge. Why are you still
Mhm.
defending?" But I think that has to do with the ability to manage to convey those emotions
Yeah,
with
to
your,
express,
yeah. Let's go
to
for,
act, not just think, but to act.
yes.
That's the key.
That's the key. And let's go for something lighter. Let's go for the musicals because the musicals, the operetta and the Neapolitan music, they all share the same feeling that since I have shared in some other programs here in the same YouTube channel, that they are seen as minor genders, at least for operatic voices. So, uh, an opera singer may sing musical operetta in Neapolitan, not being that the key, but being that just part of his repertoire because his voice is made for much complicated roles as are expected from the opera. And it is true that voices that are not so trained may sing Neapolitan or operetta or musicals. That is true. Not fully trained voices. But there is something that they like to do, and I need to confess it in front of people who might listen to this program or watch it. I don't like that, from my perspective, exaggeration that some trained voices from the opera, but mostly non-trained voices at the end of a song when they are about to give a high note or a long note, they make a pause. I have an example that I have the score over there. In the song I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more. Da-da-da-da-da-da. At the end, and you say, I could have danced, danced, danced. The singer to make it a full expectation would exaggerate the last time she says dance, dance, make a pause for people to get ready for the note and says all night and goes for the note. That exaggeration of the last syllable of the word, then a pause, and then showing off with a high or a long note, I don't like it. And this is just an example because the music doesn't have that pause. You say, I could have dance, dance, dance. Of course, there is a minor pause in the singing just because of the reading. I could have dance, dance, dance all night. Immediately you go for the all night. No, it doesn't tell anywhere, stop, let all the instruments be silent, make a long pause until everyone. For me, it's too much theater, and for all those examples, when the singer exaggerates the last note or syllable, makes a pause to have expectation, for me, it's just a circus. Your thoughts?
For me, it is a little bit circus. I don't disagree as much as you do, but I don't like the exaggeration of it, of the past. Like, stop everything, tick tack, tick, pam, pam, too much.
Of course, we need some air sometimes to recover the breath and prepare the note. But when we make it
Yeah.
like that is when I don't like it.
And
But
it anticipates and it creates expectation. And I think it's possible too, but not too much.
yeah, it has to do with that thin line that is the name of our program. That thin line because doing it nice, and I'm just to show off that I can keep that note for 6 or 8 seconds. Well, now that we are getting too serious, why don't you share with us another of the pieces that you have prepared for today's? I know that you prepared
Sure.
something very nice. Why don't you tell us a little about
Hope you.
it?
Yeah. Okay. Um. Piangerò si crudele e tanto rio finché vita in petto avrò, finché vita, finché vita in petto avrò. And then we have B, and then we come back to A with variations. Excuse me a little bit. Piangerò, piangerò la sorte mia. Si crudele e tanto rio, finché vita in petto avrò. Piangerò, piangerò la sorte mia, si crudele e tanto rio, piangerò la sorte mia, si crudele e tanto rio. Finché vita in petto avrò, finché vita, finché vita in petto avrò.
That is a very lovely piece.
I love it.
Yeah, I think, as I had shared with you in the past, we need more of that lovely music. And sometimes, and maybe to continue with the conversation, maybe two more examples before we wrap up. One for Mexican music, then I will take the very well known Granada, because with Granada, everybody does whatever it pleases him or her. In the orchestration, with the voice, with the notes, people do, and most of the times, not of a very good taste, which, from my perspective, could turn Granada into a circus. I was talking to a friend, because he's so in love with that song. So, Granada, Granada, because of this and the power of the voice. When you say Granada, tierra soñada por mí, and I was telling him that as I was studying the score, I told him the song, in fact, it is very nice when sung properly. But since nobody sings it properly and everybody overdoes everything, everybody exaggerates, it ends up for people thinking that it is just Granada, tierra soñada por mí, tarara, tarara, tarara. But it is not even like tarara, tarara, tarara. It is, in fact, that section is very delicate in the score. Mi cantar se vuelve gitano cuando es para ti. Very well accentuated, with each of the notes very well written. But the things that we are usually listening to in Granada is just, from my perspective, mere circus. And I think I recall a recording from Franco Corelli. I don't know who advised him to sing Granada. He ends with a high C. So besides singing everything exaggerated, he goes sol. The singing a C in the phrase the sol. It's horrible. It's impressive, but musically it's horrible. If you listen to the version that they wrote for Pavarotti, is as horrible as well because it doesn't go with the style. He doesn't sing Spanish well, and so a
You
song,
also, I remember how
yeah.
you mentioned.
So I think for the case of Granada and the 99% of the cases, mere circus. What do you
I
think?
agree. I agree.
I would love so very much to listen to a rendition of Granada, the way it is written, taking out all everything. Maybe at the end a high note, just to feel fine, but the rest of it, sing it with nice style, with the rhythm
Yeah,
that it requires.
I think that as singer you have to understand about respect in many different ways. Respect to the composer because he wrote an idea and you are just to perform and to communicate that idea. You can make it your own and you can put your personal seal on it, but it's it was music created by someone else and you have to respect the idea. You have to respect the style. Not everything is an aria. Not everything is opera. I hate, I have to say, I'm sorry if somebody loves it, but I hate this album named Christmas with the three tenors. Oh my goodness.
I have never heard it, and I'm sure I will never do.
I please don't ever buy or listen something like this. I I mean, let's talk about a little example. We are on time. Silent Night or Noche de Paz in Mexico. You can't. I mean, I don't even know how to say it, but just think of it. Noche de paz, noche
Noche de
de
amor.
amor, todo duermen de rest. Nothing sleeping.
With
it's
that
not.
voice, with that voice.
It's not silent. It's not Christmas.
And you know
So
that,
you have to respect the music and you have to respect the style.
and I'm not sure if
And not many singers, or not all of singers, understand that part.
I'm not sure if
I
I
have to
shared
say,
this anecdote with you in the past, and maybe we will be wrapping this with this anecdote. I was present at the anniversary of the Mexican tenor Jordi. I forgot his last name. Jordi. Oh, I don't deserve to live.
no, I don't get it.
Jordi, what's the name of this tenor? Sorry about that. He was a very famous tenor in the 70s and the 80s. So it was his anniversary. It was at Opus 94 5. And there were many people who were invited to attend because there was a live concert. And of course, at the end, everybody was invited to sing Las Mañanitas. So now think of all the, because there were mezzo, contralto, tenor himself, Jordi Ramiro. The name is Jordi Ramiro. Sorry, Maestro Ramiro, for forgetting your complete name. But many singers invited, many in the audience as well. And I remember that I had a countertenor and a mezzo by my side. And I remember that when everybody started, Estas son las mañanitas, said, what is that? And at the end,
Yeah,
everybody fighting to keep the last note as high or as long as possible, and you think, what is this? Is this a choir from what opera? These are not the mañanitas. And at the end, everybody was clapping at each other, very satisfied for how they made out of the nice song Las Mañanitas a complete monster. I felt so ashamed for myself that day. But people were happy. That was absolute circus. Las Mañanitas is just to celebrate. I'm happy that you're here. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba el rey David. Tra la 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 la. And well,
nobody now needs to know you're an opera singer in
with
Las
Las
Mañanitas.
Mañanitas. No, nobody needs to know that.
Yeah.
I know that day you were not on the stage, but nobody needed to know that you were by my side, really. So I would like to thank Katya for today's time sharing this program. I had lots of fun planning and doing it. I hope you did too. And why don't we wrap up today's program with you sharing another case that you would like to propose for art, acrobatics, and circus?
Yep. When we talk last program about cadenzas, for example, uh, you have to check out different versions and see what matches more with your skills, but also with the style. Respect the style always. And I would like to sing the end of an area uh, by Gilda.
Our very well known Gilda.
Oh yes. um, Let me check
Sure,
since
sure.
the point I'm gonna take it because I was not prepared. That's the truth.
And we all know that since this is a live program, we may not always be ready. And also, I wanted to mention everybody as we are having a tone in the conversation to put yourself back into the mood of the music. So it may take several seconds. So that's pretty normal. If you're ready, we're ready. We are
I'm
not
ready.
singing, so